Yes, it is. Beautiful. Okay. Welcome, everybody. My name is Ryan Christopher. I'm your licensed esthetician and educator today. And today we're talking all about NanoFusion by Skin Moderne. So I was just having a chit chat with a couple of our attendees, and they were letting me know that they already are using NanoFusion. If you have just joined the call recently and you're already currently using NanoFusion, go ahead and let us know in the chat box so I know who's already actively using the pen. If you are just attending this presentation to learn more and let's do a little shopping, then go ahead and let me know that you're here to learn more. And if you have a different pen, a different branded Nano pen, that's fine. You're more than welcome to join this presentation because Nano is Nano. There are certain differences in pen design, and we're going to talk about those differences. I own a lot of different Nano pens. So when I got a hold of the Skin Moderne Nano pen, I really noticed the quality construction and the notable difference in result when I'm able to work with a larger pad and more silicone tipped nano needles. So we'll talk about that. But let's get this presentation started. Maria, thank you so much for joining. I see that you're currently using Nano Pro. Absolutely love it. So let's go ahead and talk about NanoFusion, what it is, and then, as I said, at the end of the recording presentation, I'm going to take some additional questions. So this is a technique where it is a specific modality being used to produce transdermal nanoscale channels in the skin, allowing active ingredients to penetrate more easily, thereby increasing the solution's efficacy. So that's in a nutshell, just a quick little snippet for what it is. And the snippet is a little client friendly as well. So if you're looking for some verbiage and some things to say to your clients and how to describe it, I know a lot of us have been in the treatment room where they would say, well, what is it? What is nano? Why is it so special? Why is it so different? And, a lot of us have used the terms referencing microneedling. We're saying, oh, well, it's like microneedling, but it's the no downtime version. It has the ability to stimulate collagen production and get better absorption of active ingredients, but it's not going to break the skin or sensitize the surface. There are so many different ways to speak to it, but truly what clients want to know is that you're working with a technology that is not going to damage or harm their skin or cause any sensitivity, and you're not using anything that's going to break the surface of their skin. And of course, depending on which state you're in, that has a lot to do with your esthetician scope of practice as well. So NanoFusion is an excellent service that's going to help increase healthy oxygenated blood flow to your skin cells. And it's also going to increase the efficacy of the skincare you're using with it by creating those nano channels, allowing proper absorption of active ingredients. Now let's talk about the technology specifically. What is it? So nanotechnology was actually developed by nanophysicists to be the solution to a problem, delivering a relatively measured dose of a serum into a patient without a needle stick. So it's kind of interesting because microneedling, nano treatments, all of these came from the medical field, and they came from um, medical physicians, doctors looking for a way to get active ingredients through the skin without actually causing any bloodborne pathogens to arise out of the skin. So there was a lot of technology and a lot of study that went into creating nanotechnology, but how we got a hold of it in aesthetics was basically the creation of it for the medical field and having to find ways to improve transepidermal drug delivery in the skin. So, because they found that this was medically proven to work, it was an ability to increase the active absorption of registered drugs into the skin without actually breaking the surface of the skin. When that technology became more widely available and they were looking for commercial uses, well, that landed right there in our industry here at Skin Moderne. And along with a lot of other estheticians around the world, we're seeing nano pens become more and more popular because, of course, the reasons I've already mentioned. They fit within our scope, they're non-traumatizing to the skin, and they have an actual effect on helping to plump fine lines and wrinkles and increase the efficacy of the active ingredients. So, what are we doing? We're creating nanochannels, and we're using a device that's not breaking the skin or causing any bloodborne pathogens to come to the surface. So, this is truly exciting. Skin Moderne is one of the few brands that's partnered directly with and has registered our devices as with the patented technology that is registered by the original creators of this nanotechnology. Um, and I just looked down in the chat box. I saw Lynn's comment, and I do want to comment on that because Lynn mentioned that she's always looking for tips to provide better services. Biggest challenge is holding the skin taut. And I do want to talk about that when we get to the technique portion of this presentation, because I agree with you completely, Lynn. One of the number one incidences where we find our estheticians are causing some trauma to the skin with a nano pin is by applying pressure or not holding the skin taut. And when you're not holding the skin taut, that's going to cause the skin to slide and move around. And when the skin is sliding and moving around while you're trying to move that pin over the surface, that will cause the skin to roll. It'll cause the skin to angle, and that will cause that pad to dig into the surface of the skin just a bit more. So it's very true. We can scratch the surface of the client's skin with the nano pin, but I'm always reminding my estheticians during our education classes that it's so important to hold that skin taut, work in small sections. But we'll get back to that in just a moment. As you can see in this picture, which is supposed to be a video, NanoFusion can be applied anywhere. This technology can address skin issues anywhere on the body. It provides a very gentle stimulation that, again, does not leave the skin irritated when applied properly. And we talked about that proper application, making sure that we're holding the skin taut, working in small sections, and not applying pressure. It's unnecessary for us to apply pressure. I will say I was recently at a training event for estheticians. NASN Pro is a national organization that we have been a sponsor of this year. And I've met with a lot of estheticians this year that have been looking and shopping for nano pins. And they're looking and shopping for nano pins in most states because in most states you're not allowed to do microneedling because it breaks the surface of the skin, and that's out of our aesthetic scope. So one thing I saw though is I saw an esthetician that was trying to use the pin very similar to microneedling. She was aggressively rubbing the surface of the pin and the pad over the skin, trying to cause trauma and redness. And she did successfully scratch the surface of her skin. Unfortunately, she was relating that trauma to the efficacy of the pin, and that could be no further from the truth. It is absolutely not necessary for you to traumatize the client's skin with a nano pin. You're not doing the same thing as microneedling. As you can see in this image here, when we talk about transdermal pathways or delivery pathways for ingredients, there are a few different methods. There is an intracellular delivery, which is the pathway of penetration between the cells of the skin that active ingredients travel to reach those keratinocytes and deeper layers of the skin. They're literally working their way through those cells, but those cells are not easily permeable. There are a lot of lipids and ceramides and things that are helping to keep those skin cells impacted. And that's why our skin is such a beautiful protective barrier, because it is designed to keep things out. That's why we also have transcellular delivery. So this is one of the more effective mechanisms to get those active ingredients into the skin. The breach of the stratum corneum layer via those tiny microchannels can create an artificial route into the epidermis. Active solutions can penetrate the skin and permeate the protective barrier of the stratum corneum. Now, I'm in Atlanta, Georgia, so I am very Southern. So when I try to explain nanofusion to my clients, I use a funny little term. I talk about how the little pad is hitting the surface of the skin, and it's kind of just giving those skin cells a little bit of a shimmy. Have you ever heard that word? I think it's a Southern word, but we just want to jostle those skin cells and create those pathways for those ingredients to seep into the skin and seep past all of that brick and mortar of those desmosome cells and all of those rich lipids and ceramides, helping to create that protective barrier. So yeah, just give the skin a little shimmy with those little pads, those little pyramids that we're going to show here in just a moment. Now, nanofusion technology has been clinically proven. When we apply skincare to the surface of our skin, some studies have shown that the ingredient delivery, just by topical application, by massaging it into the skin, is as little as 2%. And of course, this can have a lot to do with delivery system technology. There are a lot of great delivery systems that have been created with the increase in skincare technology. So now we have gold particle delivery systems, we have lipid delivery systems. There are so many different technologies that can get active ingredients through that protective barrier of our skin. But even those ingredient technologies, some of them don't really stand up to the protective barrier that our skin has really built up to keep us safe. That's why using a nano pen can increase that cellular effectiveness, even if you have a serum that uses ingredients that already have their own delivery system. You can pair those technologies together. So, some studies have shown that nanofusion pens can help to deliver up to 40 to 50% of the product's active ingredients successfully past the stratum corneum. So, this is one of the number one reasons why infusion is so important. We know that it's getting that benefit. Our clients know that they see results at the end of the facial, and that's what really matters to them. Now, it is important to know that this pen is very effective, which means that there are certain ingredients that just do not need to be nanoed past the stratum corneum. It's a little bit more of an advanced application. If you've been working with a client that is extremely prepped and you've decided to maybe penetrate an acid or an enzyme or a retinol that we know can have a stimulating effect on the skin cells when applied just by themselves. So, why would we use a nano pen to increase absorption of that? Well, I can tell you from the exfoliation side, and I'll use Renew as an example because I've spoken with a couple of our Skin Moderne partners here in the United States that have been using the Nano Pen for multiple years. And they have even used Nano with the Perfecting Serum or the Renew Serum. So let's talk about those two serums for a split second before I talk to you about the application, because I don't want you to just run off and start trying this. Perfecting Serum and Renew Serum are alpha hydroxy acid serums. The Perfecting Serum has a split, a 10% split between lactic acid and mandelic acid. It also has 1% salicylic acid. Now, we know that salicylic acid is already small enough in its molecular size to get down into the follicle walls, and that's why it's so good at treating bacteria in acne conditions. So it already has its own ability to penetrate and get down into the areas where it needs to be. But those alpha hydroxy acids are designed to break apart those desmosome cells and help with some chemical exfoliation on the surface. We also know that lactic acid and mandelic acid has its own benefits, lactic acid being a strong humectant and binding moisture to the skin once it's able to settle down into those layers. So, why would we use nanofusion to increase the penetration of an exfoliating serum? Well, I can tell you firsthand, it is going to cause some downtime and it is going to cause some excess flushing and sensitivity to your client's skin. So, I would not recommend marketing that service as a no downtime service if you're planning on combining your NanoPen with an exfoliating product like Perfecting Serum or Renew Serum. The Renew Serum is a 20% mandelic acid serum. It is a standalone favorite for chemical exfoliation, and I've been using this serum for over a year now in my treatment room. When I tell you my no downtime facials have taken on a whole new life and glow, and my clients are actually complimenting. They're coming back to me and going, okay, that last treatment you did on me was fantastic. My skin was healthy, it was hydrated, it was happy, and I didn't have any irritation or sensitivity whatsoever. Renew is a beautiful exfoliant. It has a pH of 3.5, which means it's going to sit on the surface of the skin and it's going to gently exfoliate without over penetrating. And you know that all of our serums, including the exfoliating serums in the Skin Moderne line, include that high and low weight hyaluronic acid. So we know those formulas are going to help with the moisture barrier as well, along with providing that exfoliation. So again, I'm going to preface that you should not just run out there and start applying exfoliating serums with your nano pen. But I would say that the perfecting serum and the renew serum are safe to use with the nano pen, but it will come with some turnover. It's going to dramatically increase that skin's rate of turnover. It is going to be coupled with some inflammation on the surface, some sensitivity, and maybe, depending on your client's skin type, a little prolonged sensitivity upwards of 24 hours. Now, retinols, any form of vitamin A, and stronger acids, pHs below 3, for example. I don't recommend it. I don't recommend it at all. It's not necessary, and it's just unnecessary to layer those technologies to create such an intensive reaction and an inflammatory reaction at that. That's one of the benefits of partnering with Skin Moderne as a brand, is that we can create beautiful results similarly to our medical spa partners that are doing some serious trauma to the skin in order to get it to heal. What's beautiful about this technology, both the skincare ingredient technology and the device technology, is that we can get those increased results without the downtime. But of course, we're estheticians and we like to dive deep sometimes, right? So that's why I just wanted to address the use of the perfecting serum with the renew serum. All right. Now, let's talk about just the general benefits of NanoFusion. NanoFusion offers both immediate and long term results. It can help to enhance product absorption and deliver active ingredients deeper into the skin for that optimal skin restoration. What are we going to see when we do NanoFusion? We're going to see an increased circulation in the skin with multiple services, and those services can be done as little as 1 week apart. We're going to see the support of collagen production. So, we're going to see those fine lines and wrinkles plump. We're also going to immediately see the softening of those fine lines and wrinkles on the surface. So there is an immediate result to your facial treatments. Also, this reduction in scarring. Scarring is a buildup of connective tissue that has rapidly been created to help heal an area. So it's simply just a buildup of those keratinized cells that need to be broken down over time. You can use the nano pen to get extra delivery of active ingredients to help break apart that connective tissue and create healthy circulation that's going to help to soften that tissue over time. Old scars take a long time to revise, but with continual treatment, you can start to get some softening on the surface and some reduction in the visibility of those scars. Lightening pigmentation. Now, nanofusion is interesting because how are we lightening pigment without actually exfoliating the surface of the skin? Again, it all has to do with the infusion of the active ingredients that you're using. So I highly recommend the Luminous Serum. If you've not yet been introduced to the Luminous Serum, you should go right into your wholesale account, get that in your cart. The Luminous Serum has 5 separate tyrosinase inhibiting ingredients that help to slow the skin's ability to begin continually hyperproducing that pigmentation. And we know that hyperpigmentation in the skin, visually from the side in a cross section, looks like a tower. Pigment is being created and it's being built up in a rapid scale, and it's then migrating towards the surface of the skin. When we look at the skin and analyze it underneath a Woods lamp, we can see how deep that pigment goes and how long we're truly going to have to treat it. But one thing I can tell you is when you start using the Luminous Serum on not only in your treatments, but you have your clients using Luminous at home on a daily basis, they will begin to see their skin brighten naturally. And when you're infusing Luminous Serum with the Nano Pen, you're going to get an even faster result. So, lightening pigmentation, improving hydration levels, helping to control breakouts, all of these things are beneficial results when we are doing this nanofusion treatment. How are we helping to control breakouts? Well, of course, we're stimulating fresh oxygenated blood flow when you're doing nanofusion. So, when we're creating that fresh oxygenated blood flow, we are reducing or strengthening the skin's ability to heal itself. And we're also reducing the body's buildup of that bacteria. So, it is very important to use over an acne client as well. We do caution, though, not to use the nano pen directly over any broken skin or any open lesions. This is still a physically stimulating procedure, so we don't want to accidentally increase circulation into an area where the skin is already traumatized. Now, I did want to include this image, and the image that's on the screen is, again, supposed to be a video. I'm having a little technical difficulties today, but I wanted to show you this. This was a special event I did at a wellness apothecary where I was advertising my business, and I took my nano pen along with me. So clients were able to come over to my chair, meet me, and have a nano treatment. I did specifically a treatment around the eye area and across the forehead. I did not do the entire face. But this is one of the things that I love about NanoFusion is that I could quickly cleanse that area that I was going to work on, apply a serum like the BioPlacenta serum, and then gently nanofuse over any expression lines and wrinkles. I had the immediate before and after on the very first slide at the start of this presentation. And the immediate before and after, just within 15 minutes of application, was absolutely beautiful. The client noticed an immediate result. So if you're looking to promote yourself or get yourself out there, take that NanoFusion pen with you. It delivers immediate results and no irritation, and clients will be wowed at the things that you can do to their skin without causing that downtime. Now let's dive into some details here. When we talk about nanofusion versus microneedling, at first when we look at all of these pens, they're very similar. And there are some pens out there on the market that do offer multiple tip types as far as length of needles and then also nano tips. I want you to be a little cautious when looking out of the market for those cheaply made devices because I'm going to give you a couple examples of the points of difference. For one thing, a pen that is designed for microneedling is automatically going to come with a dial around the side of it. And that dial is there to help you increase the length of the needle out of the tip so that you can increase the depth of penetration that those needles are puncturing the surface of the skin. When doing nano, the tip is designed to hit the skin at the surface and to hit it at a rapid rate, and it's designed to hit the skin at a specific depth. There is no reason to use a dial pin to increase the depth of your nano pin. That's simply applying more pressure. And I guarantee you, when you use a dial pin with a nano pad, you are automatically going to scratch the client's skin because you're going to be using more pressure than you really need to. One additional thing, and I can say this from firsthand experience, a lot of those cheaply made pens, I've purchased them in the past. The ones with the dials, over time, they do start to fall apart. And unfortunately, not a lot of them are still completely wireless. They have to be plugged in to be used. But whether wireless or not, be cautious of these cheaply made pens. They are not going to last you a long time, and they're not going to give you the ideal result that you're truly looking for. Also, you want to make sure that you pay attention to the pad options that are out there. Our pads are made of medical grade silicone pyramids. These are not needles and they're not stainless steel. So, to avoid that is important because stainless steel can cause an inflammatory reaction in the skin as well. And most of those cheaply made pads out there are just using stainless steel nano channels. Now, again, this service is completely different from microneedling. We're not using needles, we're not breaking the skin. And because of that simple fact right there, this pen is completely safe for estheticians to use in every state across the United States. It is within our scope to use because all we're doing is creating that healthy vibrational massage that creates healthy oxygenated blood flow to our skin cells and thereby helps to increase the transepidermal pathway of those active ingredients. Now, I wanted to talk about the mechanism of action of the NanoFusion pen. First of all, this pen is product neutral. So, for a lot of you that are already in this call and using the pen actively, you know that you can use it with any products that you have. You don't have to use it with the Skin Moderne brand. One thing I will say though is that the Skin Moderne brand and our elemental serums are designed specifically for this technology. Every single ingredient is biocompatible with the skin, even the preservative systems. And that's why these serums were made. They were made to give you the best result and not stimulate that unnecessary inflammatory response. There are three speeds: a high, medium, and low. And when you first turn the pin on, it starts immediately on the high setting. I usually recommend the high setting for those clients that are younger with a thicker, more resilient skin type that aren't sensitive or compromised. When you do work with a client that has more of a hypervascular skin type, they bring circulation to the surface, or their skin is a bit thinner, a little more reactive, then that's when you want to move down to the medium or the low setting. And again, when you are working with a client with sensitive skin and a reactive skin type, you want to make sure that you pull the skin taut in that specific area and only work in small areas. Don't try to do big, long strokes over the client's face or neck area. Move in small sections. As we said before, this is a gentle, non irritating service when done appropriately, and it is an affordable, results driven device. Now, our pen specifically can give you up to 4 hours of use off of that one charge, and it takes 2 hours to fully charge the client. It has an extended motor life, and as you can see here, the repetitions per minute on the right-hand side are high, medium, and low. When on the high setting, you're getting up to 5,400 repetitions per minute on the skin. Medium setting is 5,000, low setting is 4,800. And again, this just helps to reduce the amount of stimulation that we're getting in any one area while moving the pen. You do want to keep the pin moving and gliding over that tight skin that you're holding still, moving in that small area. Again, if you have any questions or comments while we're in the middle of this presentation, just go ahead and drop it down in the chat box. We're going to have a little Q&A hangout at the end of the recording. Now, this would be an image of what our silicone pyramids look like. These pyramid-like nanostructures are on the end of our single-use tip. So you should never reuse these tips from one client to another. It's not possible to properly sanitize these tips. The patented nanostructures are manufactured from pharmaceutical grade monocrystalline silicone, and it is there to help reduce irritation from the skin. The silicone does not have an inflammatory response when used, as opposed to stainless steel, like I mentioned before. NanoFusion technology, not only do we have the single-use tip with the silicone pyramids at the end, but we have 81 of these individual silicone pyramids. And there are other brands out there on the market that are going to advertise their specific type of tip and why it's so beneficial. I can tell you across the board that the only difference between these pads and the silicone pyramid is whether it's completely aluminum or coated with that medical grade silicone. So this is a very important point of difference. Also, our pad has 81 pyramids on the surface of the pad. That gives you a larger area to work with so that you're not having to move in such small rows and strokes. You're covering a larger space. I know a lot of the competitive pens out there have anywhere from 45 upwards of 60 to 61 pyramids, but our pad specifically has 81 pyramids on the end of the tip. Now, as we mentioned before, nanotechnology is the understanding and control of matter at the nanoscale. So these dimensions are between approximately 1 and 100 nanometers. The size of these individual tips are so small that they're between the size of a virus and a molecule. And this is, again, why it's completely safe for estheticians to use, but also why it's extremely effective in our treatment room. Now, how do we prepare the skin for nanofusion? The truth is that you don't truly have to prepare the skin. This is not a chemical peel. This is not microneedling. This is not something that is going to cause excessive trauma to the skin. So it's not necessary to truly prep the skin in the way we as estheticians think about preparing the skin. Now, the way clients can prepare the skin at home to have a more effective treatment, and this is direction that you can give to them before their next nanofusion service, we do want them to make sure that they're properly cleansing and moisturizing their skin at home. Healthy, cleansed, and moisturized skin cells on the surface are going to have a faster and more easy desquamation process during this treatment. So we're going to be able to work more easily with a skin that is already soft and is already properly exfoliated. Clients can use serums at home, like our bioretinol, for example. Bioretinol is an excellent treatment that can be used to increase the skin's rate of turnover, already helping to bring those healthy skin cells to the surface. And if you are treating hyperpigmentation with the luminous serum, regardless of what layer it's in the skin, I highly recommend that you have your clients using bioretinol 2 to 3 times a week in the evening time to help speed up that skin's rate of turnover. When using bioretinol and luminous serum in tandem with one another in a daily and weekly treatment routine, you're going to see the skin brighten more effectively. And this simply comes down to the fact that the skin's increased rate of turnover is going to help to bring that hyperpigmentation up to the surface a lot faster. So, our regular treatment with our clients with NanoFusion is going to help speed that process up, and we're going to see a faster lifting of that hyperpigmentation in the skin. Clients can also do some exfoliation at home, but we do recommend that they exfoliate no more than once to twice a week, depending on their skin type. And you would be the qualified professional to give them that direction. So make sure that they are using the AHA BHA serum at home. For those of you that are not aware, the AHA BHA serum is the retail version of the perfecting serum that we discussed earlier. The perfecting serum being that 10% blend of lactic and mandelic acid and that 1% blend of salicylic acid, remember? Well, the AHA BHA serum is the retail version of that, and that has a 5%, a little over a 5% split or blend of that lactic and mandelic acid and a 0.5% of that salicylic acid. So that AHA BHA serum is absolutely excellent for them to be applying at home at nighttime in order to rejuvenate the surface of their skin and cause some proper turnover. Another beautiful thing about using the AHA BHA serum at home is that it also has the same high and low hyaluronic acid combination that all of the elemental serums have. So even though it is truly an exfoliating serum, that hyaluronic acid combination is going to help to support the moisture barrier. So we don't have to worry about the skin becoming dehydrated from overexfoliation. Now, when we talked about movement on the skin and mapping the skin of the face, here's a really good example of how to work in that area. But I want you to think and envision the size of just a nice little postage stamp, 1 square inch, working in each area across the forehead, over the nose, over the cheeks, and across the jawline. You can even work with the NanoFusion pen directly on top of the lips. We have a very special back bar serum called the plumping serum, and it uses niacinamide along with our high and low weight hyaluronic acid and a red algae extract to cause a flush of circulation to the surface of the skin. We designed the serum to specifically be used over the lips and underneath the eye area. So you can paint this over the lips or underneath the eyes, even in an event setting like I showed you, and you can use the nano pen directly on top of the lip texture. Now, depending on the size of your client's lips, you might need to hold and support the skin so that you have a flat plane to work with. And you might also have to do static holds of the pen on top of the lip in each area as opposed to gliding the pen. When gliding the pen, again, over the lip area, because there are a lot of curvatures and different volume depending on the face, if you don't stretch the skin properly and hold it taut in each area, you're again running a high risk of scratching the skin by applying too much pressure at the wrong angle. So, again, for the lip area, if you find that gliding is a bit of a challenge, I recommend that you hold the pen in each section of the lips, creating a static hold over that area for upwards of 3 to 5 seconds. And of course, when you're counting it out, it's not quick movement. It's hold on one area of the pen with the plumping serum underneath for 1,000, 2, 1,000, 3, 1,000, 4, 1,000, 5, 1,000, and then moving to the next section and repeating that count. So just make sure that you know that this is an option. You can glide over the lips if you have a broader area and you can support that skin properly. But if not, just do a simple static hold over the texture of the lips and make sure to hit that vermilion border as well so you get that beautiful circulation going. But when we're working over the face, you want to make sure, again, that we're gliding in those crosshatch patterns, doing vertical movements. I usually recommend overlapping strips of about three, where I would go in one section and go one, two, three, overlap, and then move right next to it. One, two, three, move right next to it. One, two, three. And then after I had covered that little section, I would then do my horizontal stripes, again, in overlapping strips of three. One, two, three, one, two, three, one, two, three. Just making sure that, again, holding the skin taut so that I have a nice smooth glide, and also make sure that you have a generous amount of serum so that you have a glide as well. If the skin begins to absorb the serum and you don't have any glide on the skin, then you're going to be running the risk of scratching the surface of the skin again. Now, this would be an example of a great place that changes in size depending on the client. The forehead can have some curves to it. It can also be a little bit larger on some than others. But want to make sure that when we're doing the gliding movements, that you support that skin and move that area in those up and down motions, and then from left to right, doing those horizontal movements afterwards. But you can typically break the forehead up into 3 to 4 sections depending on the size of the forehead itself. As I mentioned before, you can work in the eye and lip area. What I recommend with the eyes, though, so this is a little specific because of the fact that we have a lot of aging clients that have sagging, soft skin in this area, and this is the thinnest skin on your entire body. So you'd want to make sure that you have a generous amount of serum underneath the eye area, and you want to use the pen to work in individual lines towards the lash line. So making sure that you're moving towards the lash line, not away. If you have a client with sagging skin around the eyes and you're moving both vertical away from the eyelid and towards it, you're going to be dragging that skin along with it. And it's going to be difficult to support that skin in that area. So I want to make sure that you really do support the skin, but only move in a singular direction towards the lash line. And that's going to help to keep the eye area safe. And I did mention on the lips again, when you are working across the upper lip and the lower lip, you want to work towards the lip line so that you're not, again, dragging the skin or moving the skin from the lips being open. And you can work directly on the lip area as well. But we want to make sure we move in slow, methodical movements. We're not trying to, this is not a fast service. It should take you up to 15 minutes to complete the NanoFusion full face treatment itself. So this is not a rapid thing that we're doing. You want to think about moving slow and methodically so that you're giving that pin time to increase that healthy oxygenated blood flow. And again, my apologies for my technical difficulties that I'm dealing with today, because all of these images that I'm showing you are supposed to be video, and I am having some issues with my device at the moment. My apologies on that. Let's talk about serums. I've already mentioned a few of the specific serums in the brand, but let's talk about ingredients. First of all, you want to work specifically with water-based formulation. Water-based formulas are going to be the best at being absorbed within the skin. Lipid, we are mostly water. Like, our bodies and our skin are over 70% water anyway. So there's no reason to try to be infusing an oil or a lipid. Those things are designed to sit on the surface of the skin and keep it protected. So there is no reason to try to do that. And this is one of the reasons why we only work with serums. We don't work with moisturizers, and we don't work with masks. You have to remember that every single ingredient within that formulation, when used with the NanoPen, is going to absorb past the protective barrier. So I usually tell people, do not work with oils, do not work with acids, retinols, enzymes, but also don't work with any formulas that use synthetic ingredients or dyes that are meant to create a sensorial experience. Those ingredients are not biocompatible with the skin. So when you infuse them using the NanoPen, it increases the inflammatory response, and you could also be putting your client at risk by getting some of those ingredients past that protective barrier. The best choice when looking at any brand on the market, when you find those water-based formulas, confirm that they do not have any synthetic fragrance, confirm that they do not have any colorants or dyes at the base of the ingredient list, and then go look for these specific ingredients. Hyaluronic acid. We use hyaluronic acid in every single one of our formulations. We use both high and low weight hyaluronic acid, so it is extremely beneficial for all skin types and all skin conditions. Peptides. There are a wide array of peptides out there, but there are some specific peptides that have been shown in clinical studies to directly produce collagen. And we enjoy those peptides. So, those are great ingredients to get past the protective barrier of the skin. Antioxidants. Of course, we need antioxidants daily to help reduce all of that environmental exposure and free radical damage that we're being exposed to on a daily basis. Stem cells and growth factors. There has been a lot of growth factors specifically in the market and in the skincare world. Are they stable in these water-based formulations? Do they have a long shelf life? Can they work when used with a variety of other sensorial ingredients? There's so many different nuances to chemistry and formulation when it comes to working with growth factors. But one thing you should know about the Skin Moderne brand is that we do work specifically with plant-based actives that have gone through a proprietary fermentation process that not only makes them more biocompatible with the skin, but makes them more bioavailable. And we do have clinical data showing why these ingredients are so effective when used with a NanoFusion pen. In all of my meetings with Dr. Frank Roskin and the CEO, Richard Purvis, they go above and beyond to only source their information and their ingredients from houses that have done the research, that own the patents, that are going above and beyond to make sure that they are putting something quality out there on the market. And that's one of the biggest reasons why I have enjoyed working with the Elementals range of back bar serums so much this year. Now, when we talk about problematic and then we talk about client dependent, so we already know the problematic ingredients, watching out for those acids, enzymes, retinols, those very inflammatory active ingredients that usually do a good job of working on their own. Then there are client dependent formulas with many ingredients, cocktailing serums, new ingredients to the client. It's important when making your product selection. I just want you to focus on the key things that I've already discussed. Making sure that you're avoiding sensorial ingredients, ingredients that are causing the formula to have a certain color, causing the formula to have a certain scent. Those ingredients typically are not biocompatible with the skin and will cause some raised inflammation. We also want to watch out for preservative systems that are not biocompatible with our skin as well. And again, Skin Moderne's preservatives are biocompatible and bioavailable. You can work with any brand, but just remember that the Skin Moderne brand offers no reordering wholesale minimums. So I do encourage you to go right into that Elemental Pro range and get what you need to make your treatments effective. Now, let's talk about timing for protocols. When you're creating your own protocols and figuring out where to include nano in the treatment, know first that a full nano treatment of the face and neck should take you about 15 minutes. If you find yourself blasting through an entire nano protocol over the face in about 5 to 10 minutes, you might be moving just a little too fast. So make sure that you take your time, move in those smooth, slow, methodical movements. If you are now, nano saying that nano is 15 minutes, I'm talking about simply applying nano in the midst of your existing protocol. If you were going to do just an exclusive nano treatment by itself, you can do nano successfully by itself in about 45 minutes. That is going to include your double cleansing. It can also include the basic protocol for NanoFusion, which includes using the perfecting serum or the renew serum for gentle exfoliation prior to doing the nano, and then doing the nano treatment itself, removing the excess serum, and then putting on your moisturizers and finishing. If you are combining NanoFusion with any additional modalities, mask treatments, any type of sheet masks, things like that, then you do want to book out a full hour so that you're able to do the full treatment, allowing enough time for exfoliation, masking, everything. Now, I would recommend making a deluxe nanofusion protocol if you include LED light therapy in your treatment. And we love LED light therapy. So that would be more of a deluxe facial that could fit an 80 to 90-minute protocol. You're going to double cleanse, you're going to perform some form of exfoliation. Prior to the mask treatment, you're going to do your nanofusion service, and then you're going to mask the client afterwards. And then, of course, wherever you plug in your LED. I know a lot of estheticians like to plug it in right at the very end, and some estheticians like to plug it in either during or before the masking service. Wherever you like to apply your LED, go right ahead. Now, when we talk about adding modalities, we're talking about additional exfoliation, using LED, which you can use before or after, or also incorporating things like microcurrent, high frequency. There are a wide array of services that you can include with NanoFusion. So, yes, you can do exfoliation prior to NanoFusion. Yes, you can do LED stimulation before or after NanoFusion. And I love microcurrent. But microcurrent does take some time to properly apply. So that's probably going to be in your 80 to 90-minute treatment, your deluxe service, if you're combining nano with microcurrent. Dermaplaning. Well, dermaplaning is another form of exfoliation. So dermaplaning can be done prior to your nanofusion. An oxygen treatment. We recommend that you do nano first, followed by your oxygen treatment. And why so? Well, we've already oxygenated the skin quite thoroughly doing the nanofusion prim prior to. So any O2 or oxygen type treatment that you're going to put on the surface is going to just complement all of that healthy circulation that you've already gotten going. Enzyme treatments. Again, just like any form of exfoliation, yes, you can do an enzyme treatment first. After properly removing, neutralizing, then it would be time to do your nanofusion service. Now, let's talk about contraindications as we come towards the end of our presentation. Contraindications include fresh scarring and keloid scarring. If someone has a reactive skin type and hyperproduces connective tissue to create a keloid type scar, that is a client that we want to avoid with this service. True, we are not breaking the skin or causing sensitivity, but we do want to be cautious. Can we work on old scars? Yes. Old scars are not active. We can go ahead and work on those, and we can work on them deeply to try to break up that tissue. Active inflammatory conditions like eczema, dermatitis, psoriasis, avoided simply because the nanofusion is going to increase a lot of blood flow to that area. Those are conditions that already bring some excess circulation to the surface, and the skin is dealing with some other conditions and parameters because of that increased circulation. So we would not recommend nanofusion directly on top of these conditions. It is still a stimulating treatment, even though it seems so gentle and does not break the surface. We don't want to work on somebody that has an active history of herpes simplex infections. And we definitely don't want to work on somebody that is currently dealing with a herpes simplex infection on the surface. Presence of any raised moles, warts on the targeted area, you just want to work around these areas. It's not necessary for you to nano directly over them, and it's not really going to be beneficial as well. Conditions like scleroderma, again, these are vascular diseases, and when we have an area of the body or the skin on the face that's dealing with an inflammatory condition already, we do want to avoid this area. Any active bacterial or fungal infections should be completely avoided. But of course, that should be completely avoided for all of your facial services, not just nanofusion. And there should be care taken when working with somebody who is dealing with an immunosuppression condition. This is not recommended for clients who are pregnant or nursing, but I would say that you could have them get approval for their doctor if they still wanted to receive this treatment because it is a non invasive treatment. Now, let's talk about before and afters. I was trying to provide you with some of my video technology. That wasn't working for me today, but I can definitely provide you with these beautiful before and afters that we also have in our resources section. So for all of our wholesale partners, if you haven't yet, log into your SMP Beauty account and then go to the resources section and pull these before and afters. We all of these treatments have been done with NanoFusion in one of our clinics or by one of our esthetician partners, and the results are recorded here on the slides as to up to 6 treatments to really achieve these plumping, glowing results that we see our clients having from this service. So we do love a good before and after, and we're always looking for new before and afters. Our team actively manages our social media accounts, especially on Instagram and Facebook. So if you do or are posting some of your own dynamic before and afters, be sure to tag at Skin Moderne so that we can share your amazing results that you're getting as well. These wrinkles around the lip area, which we know are a frustration for many aging clients and women, especially women that like lip cosmetic. This plumping was done after 6 treatments, which I think is kind of amazing. Acne scarring and PIH, this was starting to see some reduction just even after 2 treatments by one of our licensed esthetician partners. And then hyperpigmentation after 6 treatments. It will take multiple treatments to get the results, but hyperpigmentation can be addressed successfully with NanoFusion. I do encourage you to have them on either the bioretinol product along with luminous serum or some form of tyrosinase inhibiting serum for daily use at home. And then ocular wrinkles after 3 treatments. Now, of course, we know that these are areas of the face where we are constantly making expression. At one point in this young lady's life, those wrinkles were wrinkles in motion, meaning that we didn't see them if she wasn't making the facial expression. But on the left hand side in the before picture, we can clearly see that they have become wrinkles at rest. She's not making the facial expression, but the wrinkles are still present on her skin. And after those 3 treatments with the same facial expression she's making, you can see that those wrinkles have gone back to their previous stage of wrinkles in motion, and they're no longer wrinkles at rest. So, this is a very powerful before and after for how nanofusion can be so specific and beneficial. Here's another to show you breakout and acne scarring after 6 treatments. Again, just continual treatment and use of our products to get these awesome results. Okay, thank you so much for joining the presentation today. Don't leave the call just yet. I'm going to stop the recording and we're going to do a question and answer session. Also, I want to talk to you a little bit about a promotion that's happening right now in your wholesale account. If you've not yet begun to stock the NanoFusion or the Skin Moderne retail serums, I highly recommend it, and we're going to give you a bonus for doing so. When you go shopping in your wholesale account and you put 6 of any one serum in your cart, you can put a back bar serum in your cart, and that back bar serum will be complimentary. So, for every 6 retail serums that you put in your cart, when you put a pro size serum in your cart, that is going to show up complimentary. There's not a promo code that you have to use. The system does it for you automatically, but you do have to add all of the products to the cart in order for it to work. So go in and give it a try today when you do your next retail and back bar order. We want to support your treatment room and help to reduce your cost per treatment so that your facial services can make more profits. And then you can send your clients home with the retail serums to make even more profit for your business. Okay, so I'm going to stop the recording for a moment and then we will go into our question and answer session. Thank you so much for your patience.